Hey, welcome to a brand new chapter of Old Man Brad. Whether you are new to the show or returning for another episode, thank you so much for giving me a listen. And if you love the show, drop me a review over on your favorite podcatcher, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, wherever you listen to the show. I would love to hear what you think. So this chapter, it's not really so much a horror movie, but it is one that I was heavily anticipating to see. This is a film that has been, probably 40-some years in the making. It finally was completed and released by Full Moon Features, and that's the Primevals. I couldn't do a Full Moon Features film by myself. I had to bring in my full moon friend, Drew from The Real Feels.
Good alliteration.
How you doing today?
We're doing quite well.
Yeah, I couldn't do a Full Moon Features without you. It would feel like, it would just feel wrong.
This is true. I don't know if you're Yeany for this.
Oh!
Are you Yeany for this?
I am Yeany for this. Before we dive into the movie, I'm going to tell people in Cincinnati, come out for Frightful Fridays. Third Friday of the month, I host a horror movie. And our screening for June, on June 21st, is Paganini Horror, an Italian film. I am so excited to screen this on the big screen. But yes, June 21st, 10 p.m., come out to the Esquire and let's watch a movie together. All right, Drew, are you ready to talk Primevals?
I am.
4 weeks ago, several Nepalese shepherds killed a large anthropoid. It is perhaps the most important discovery of the century.
Nice speech.
Matt.
If we can discover how this creature crossed the genetic barrier from one life form to another, we'll unlock the mysteries of heredity.
You know you can't answer those questions without a living specimen.
Which requires an expedition.
What are you two after? Tigers? Buffalo?
Something even more dangerous.
We're searching for a Yeti.
When a group of explorers go in search of a Yeti, they find themselves taken captive by an ancient race of alien creatures. So this movie is written and directed by David Allen. He passed away in 1999. And there's a big story behind this, but Charles Band and Full Moon, they finished up the film to get it to us this year. And it stars Walker Brandt, Richard Joseph Paul, Leon Russum, and many more. And like I said, this movie has a huge history to it. Do you know all the history behind this film, Drew?
I don't know all the history behind the film, but I do know a lot of the history with David Allen, and especially stuff of his caliber for visual effects and his, directorial debuts with things like Puppet Master 2.
He was the stop motion guy.
Exactly. He was doing stop motion. He did the King Kong test color footage. We have the Dungeon Masters. He did shit for Willow. Come on. If you like the stop motion creature, especially towards the end at Willow, a lot of the stuff is going to look familiar. It has pure, honestly, like very, very, I don't know, like from a horror guy perspective, or even just like a perspective of enjoying just classic adventure, kind of like claymation films, it feels very homey. It's welcoming. It's nostalgic as hell. So it's a lot of fun.
And a little of the history of this. This is a movie that he has tried to get going since 1968. He had the story written. He did a short film about it in 1968 called Raiders of the Stone Ring. It's basically the beginnings of the story that we just watched in the film, and he wanted to expand it out. And Charles Band said, "Sure, let's do it. Let's get this done." He put in like this multi-page spread in 1978 saying the Primevals is coming. It's coming in, I think they were going to release it in like 1980 or something like that. They ran out of funding. Things didn't work out. So then eventually he came back to it in the 90s and finally got the financing, got it off the ground, filmed all the live action, most of the stop motion, and he got sick and passed away in 1999. So the film just sat incomplete for many, many, many years because Charles Band didn't have the money to finish it. So it just sat there, and they crowdfunded it in 2019, got it up and running again, and his stop motion right-hand man, Chris Endicott, picked up where he left off and finished off any effects that needed to be done. And they got the film completed, and now we finally got it here in 2024. So this movie it's taken a long journey to get here finally. So that's why I was really excited to see it, because not only David Allen, we know Subspecies, Puppet Master, pretty much almost any stop motion you saw from early Full Moon he did. So many horror movies, so many fantasy movies. I mean, he's like almost a Harryhausen. You could see his Harryhausen influence huge.
If anyone's ever seen like Prehysteria 1, the tiny little dinosaurs from Full Moon, he did those as well. The talent is there. The Howling, the stuff.
It was unfortunate that we lost him so early, because who knows what amazing stuff he could have came up with after this. Before we dive into spoilers, what did you think of Primevals?
I think that you can definitely see a lot of the attention to detail for what was there. A lot of the claymation stuff, I loved watching that. I thought it was great, but I think there's a lot of ideas that were kind of thrown in there, but not exactly explained.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more to the fact of like, this is really cool to look at. And you're right. It is really cool to look at. I wish it could have been explained more. Like, I wish this could have been like almost like maybe 30 minutes longer, just so they could actually explain a bit more. And I understand the process of like, okay, we don't have that much of a story. Should we give them lines? No, let's just have them hiss a lot. Yeah, hissing's good. That saves on writing.
That works.
The audience can judge by the body language or the random narration from the actual actors dictating what they see. It's fun, but I think it had the potential to be a lot better. But that doesn't take away from, my enjoyment of what was presented, especially for the stop motion animation. I actually think some of the acting is a lot better than what we normally get from Full Moon.
It's
which
true.
Again, Full Moon has its charm. They know what they do. They are unapologetic about it, as they should be. But this actually had characters that I thought were well-rounded. They actually did quite well.
I mean, did it have your bad acting? Absolutely. It's a
there's some bad acting. Yeah, sure. But I don't know. Like, a lot of it, I didn't sit there and go like, come on. At least not the entire time. There were a few moments, but still.
I agree with you. Like, it was a fun adventure, and the stop motion animation, especially for something like this, it was done. They filmed it in, I think, around 1994. It was top tier. Like the meld that he did of live action with that stop motion was fantastic, especially for when this was done. And I was blown away by it. But I do agree with you. There are pieces that feel like missing. And I know they did 2 cuts of this movie, one with storyboards of unfinished, unfilmed pieces that he didn't do. So I'm wondering if there were fillers in there.
I think a lot of things was just kind of like, let's leave it up to the audience's imagination. And the small bits that the, I guess, reliable narrators that our characters are, we just kind of have to like smile and nod and go, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Science. I get it. Like, I mean,
science explains everything.
Like where they sit there and say like, oh, the aliens, they've been here for hundreds of thousands of years. and the guy's like, at least, they were a peaceful race. They came here and suddenly they just de-evolved into mating with the primordial man, and that this is the species that came out of it.
Now you get alien lizard people.
Speaking of Alien, there were so many things in here that made me immediately think of Alien, like a random gun that's just pointed up.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Are you the architects? And I'm like, what is this thing here for anyways? Like, it seems just such like a random plot device that is just so conveniently there. like, oh, this is going to be convenient later.
Let's just say we're going to rip that Band-Aid off. So anything we say here going forward will spoil. I don't really think there are many things that could really be spoiled. Maybe some story points, but nothing that's going to go, oh my God, I can't believe they said that.
Yeah, I think if you watch the trailer, you're going to get a lot of what is presented. And it's not anything remotely new to the whole, like, if you've seen the movie or even the TV show or even like, you know, The Continent That Time Forgot or Land of the Lost.
Land of the Lost. I thought of Land of the Lost many times as I was watching
Our
this.
adventure began. Dun, dun, and we're falling through time. Living in the land of the lost. Okay. I've had my moment now. But yeah, if you've seen those things, guys, you understand what this movie is.
Yes.
Especially if you've watched the old Nickelodeon Land.
I mean, I think the big highlight of this movie is you're going in to watch this stop motion animation.
Yes.
And how he meshed it into a live action movie very seamlessly, especially towards the end with the lizard people and they're, you know, chasing the guys. And it just, I don't know, it felt Harryhausen, 100% Harryhausen, like skeletons fighting almost. But it was so well crafted and done, especially when they show the whole crowd of them they're panning across and all of them are moving. I'm just like, how long did this few seconds of film take you to move all of them?
Oh, especially, yeah. And then like when the Yeti walked up and he was reaching up like, and the little lizard throws a rock at him.
Yeah.
And everybody cheers at it. And you're like, God, that took,
I bet that
6 second span probably took like days.
At least days. I do feel some things were missing, especially at the beginning. We start off with this Yeti attack.
Right. It's been spotted. They're like, we need to go get it. Do I have your blessing? Where's the sacred charm?
Yeah.
And
put it on the door.
Let's
keep
go
safe.
capture this thing. Right. He said like, it'll do more good here, which was a bit foreshadowing. And I love how she said like, oh, so-and-so come with me. You need to help me track them. And my brain went, he just left.
Yeah.
Not even like 20 seconds ago. How can you not know where he is? Because you catch up pretty quick.
But when we get to him, they're trying to like rope him and pin him down. And it just, one guy tries to go up in the way the Yeti just like smashes him. And he just like,
dude, when he smashes with both hands and he just went, he collapsed. It's not like he even buckled. He just, if there was like an accordion that was made into a man.
Yes. And it just went straight down.
It almost reminded me of like so many, I mean, obviously it's very reminiscent of so many movies where, you know, people are coming around the corner and they're seeing people, you know, try to wrangle and capture a creature. Like, you know, like
stuff we've seen
Park.
Before. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Jurassic Park, or
it's like those old school adventure monster movies, like King Kong. They were doing the same thing. King Kong trying to rope the monster. It's nothing you haven't seen before, but this was very, just to me, well crafted. Like stop motion animation done well, you can pretty much get me every time.
It was done well. I also loved the fact that the Yeti was ape-ish.
Yeah.
But not quite.
Mm-hmm.
Yet had very prominent hairless nipples that were like everything else was hair. And then you're like, okay, there's Yeti nips.
So the Yeti ends up dying, and then we cut to
an avalanche.
In an avalanche.
Like snow falls on him. And
then we cut to they got the Yeti body across the world on display now. What I didn't get, because there is comments of like how they snuck it past customs and everything else. I'm like, this thing is really large.
Okay, so if you look at everything that they're showing, they took out the. Now I'm going to assume that they cut this thing up into little pieces.
Yeah, you have a skeleton,
and then they and that makes more sense. And then you reconstructed it. But now here's the thing: you also had a fully purpose, put together Yeti display that
correct.
Obviously they come back and they show that it has a skeletal structure underneath it. So did you skin this thing perfectly? You can like just slip on like that. You like lower the skeleton into the Yeti jumpsuit that is its former skin, and then they removed its brain as well,
so they could say, "Look, someone performed surgery on it right here. That's what made it hostile."
I love how that is their determination that it's like that it was surgery, not that it maybe sustained an injury from fighting something in its life, or the avalanche may have like cracked its skull.
But obviously, Drew, it's a perfect line. So there was surgery obviously on that brain.
Clearly. Clearly there was.
But then you have the man, what was his name?
You had a professor, and then you had the emeritus professor who she was, I guess, she used to be Juliet Mills. Okay. Used to be part of the college, but I guess now she was retired, and now she's in charge of making a book which lures in Matthew
Connor.
Okay, Richard Joseph Paul is playing Matthew. So she lures Matthew in with the enticing factor of like, hey, do you want to help me get like a live thing
on an expedition that we can't officially announce or fund, but we're going to secretly do it anyway.
Right?
And he's been away for years somewhere. She's been trying to get a hold of him, and he's back. And says, what's going on? And then everybody's read. He's written a paper on this Yeti. Everybody's read it. So everybody knows his feelings on the possibility of a Yeti.
Leon Russum, who plays like
Rondo,
like the Alan Quartermain kind of guy.
Yes.
Do you know who he is? He plays the old man in A Quiet Place, the one that's out in the woods, who just walks up and just
He has been in a lot of things.
He's been in a lot of things. He's been in The Phantom. He was in Behind Enemy Lines, Double Dragon.
But yes, he was very much a Quartermain kind of character when they go looking for him, and then the thugs in the streets are going to mug him, and then he stops them.
Like he takes his pants. He's like, now he's going to have 2 headaches in the morning.
Yeah. I'm like, what?
I don't know why that involves 2 headaches. I love also that they go to the door and they're all like, is he expecting us? And you're like, yeah, of course he is. Yeah, but like not till tomorrow, right? Well, you're right. It is late. And I'm like, what?
He's just banging on the little knocker that's on it.
What is this dialogue?
As I'm watching it, like I wrote down some of the things of like some of the acting and some of the dialogue, but I'm like, also I'm watching a full moon feature.
Right. You kind of have to just, smile and nod with some things. And yes. I agree.
But then we get on our expedition and we go out in the mountains and the snow.
Like from there, they have to go to the Sherpas, and they recruit
the 2 people from the beginning of the film who survived.
They recruit the lady, and I can never remember if like the guy is a Siku played by Tai, literally Tai, or Tai. Is he the son or like the brother to the guy who died?
I don't know, but his initial piece is he wants revenge on the Yeti.
Right. Oh, no. His whole thing, he's like, I got to kill this thing. Like, he killed my paw.
Even though that Yeti's dead, but he wants revenge on every Yeti.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah. Every Yeti is now evil.
Exactly. And they do see one, but I forgot. They do see one, but they decide, we can't go out right now.
You have to follow it. I think that's weird. That's also really weird. Like, let's go get him. No. It's too dangerous. It's going to be night soon. We should sleep here. And I'm like, but the beast is getting away. How are you going to track it? Like, you're going to have a whole night worth of like snow and wind.
But we'll get him tomorrow.
How are you going to track this thing?
But that's okay. We find a little pod that.
Oh, no. That's right. They don't see it. They find a footprint.
I thought they saw it the night before, like climbing. No. Oh, no. They saw the footprint. They didn't see it till later.
They found the footprint and they say like, oh, like it only snowed like an hour ago. This is a fresh track. And then they decide, all right, let's make base camp.
Wait till morning when they start their hike.
Siku wakes up and he's going to shoot it. But luckily, Rondo is woken up and he stops him, and the Yeti gets away. And then, of course, yes, then they eventually start hiking again, and they come upon this tower with a solid glass.
Seems like it's like some futuristic green space, but it's hot. They touch it and it burns their hand.
This is my other thing where, again, I have to have, it's full moon, so you have to have a suspension of disbelief. And as I tell myself constantly, movies got a movie. I immediately was like, I said to myself, I don't care if it's the Himalayas. No one is missing that.
Exactly.
No one is missing. It's not even like covered in snow. It's not obscured by mountains.
Didn't they find the monkey people before that? The ape people?
No, they did not.
They didn't?
No, they did not, because they walk up to the thing. They're all like, what is this? This is weird. Is that a solid piece of glass? And they touch it. It's hot. And then suddenly the floor gives way and they drop down.
I thought they saw the ape tribe up above before they went down.
And then when they drop down, they go walking further because they find a cave system, which again, I still don't know how they inevitably, as we in the movie, get out. But they travel through the cave system, which leads them to the secret hidden world, like beneath the Himalayan mountains.
Oh, yes, because it's nice. It's warm. Kind of like...
They say, like, oh, these stones are warm. And they're like, oh, it must be the sunlight. And they're like, no, the sunlight's only been up for a few hours. These have been warm all night. How do you know that?
It's like the Godzilla versus Kong movie. There's the world underneath. And it's nice. It's like paradise. It's warm. It's green. It's lush.
It has its own little tropical climate, which looking at it, you're all like, oh, yeah, this is totally like an isolated world. It has evolved on its own. It stayed within its own parameters. Yet when they show them walking through foliage, you're like, that looks like a national park.
And then they come across the primitive ape lizard people.
They make a raft. Which apparently
within seconds.
He has a tiny axe, and that raft has a base of at least 8 logs, 8 big logs. So that's 8 trees.
I forgot about the raft because I didn't put it in my notes, but I even thought like, wow, they built that very quickly.
That is 8 trees minimum that they cut down, trimmed, tied together.
The adventure continues.
It does.
This tribe that they come across, the
prehistoric ape tribe,
they watch from afar.
I gotta say this. When they are watching from afar, I couldn't help but notice on Juliet Mills's shoulder, there was a tiny bug crawling on her jacket. And I'm thinking like, primitive bug, isolated place, primitive bug. That thing's going to kill you. It's tiny. I know.
I didn't even notice that.
Probably like a normal little pincher bug, but primitive bug.
I didn't even notice that. But the ape tribe gets murdered by our lizard people in the middle of the night.
They go off in the middle of the night with their torches. And then the next morning, he says, like, it looks like they were attacked. And I'm like, what? No.
Well, they heard screaming and they were like, something is happening. Well, we'll check it tomorrow kind of thing. And then they find out they were all murdered and then they get captured.
And they looked at their hands. The hands weren't human. They were like apish, but also scaly.
Yeah, it's lizard scales.
They had claws.
And all of this has happened the first hour of the movie. And then the last half hour, we're captured by lizard people. And it's a whole lot of story thrown at us about aliens. There's like this holographic thing of aliens they find.
There's so many things that don't make sense.
They're tied up, and then there's this gun. The
ship is clearly a TARDIS because it's like a little... It's like it is just slightly bigger than a playground flying saucer that you would climb into back when you were like 10. And yet when they climb into it, it's a fucking TARDIS. Because they're standing up, walking around, and they go into a giant room with a display and a corpse, and they're like, "This must be the center of the ship." And I'm like, "How do you know this?"
And then it's like one of those things you see in movies, like, "Oh, let's push this button. Oh, look, the story's gonna tell us everything with this robotic alien."
When he grabbed the thing off the floor and he pushed the button and it popped open and lit up, and I'm like, "That's a freaking sonic screwdriver." That looks exactly like a sonic screwdriver. But it brought up a holograph.
We get our story. And then shortly after this, they get captured by those lizard people.
My favorite part about the hologram is that it clearly shows a video of the ship coming to Earth, landing, and then like the lizard people coming out. But it's done from afar. So I'm wondering who's filming the home movies? Because that...
I didn't even think about that. I was just... along for the ride with this.
I know my brain doesn't stop for these things.
Full moon feature. And this is where I feel like I've mentioned it before, how the stop motion effects really shined was with
100%.
the lizard people with their little and the fights and the everything else. But yeah,
I love the detail on like the head lizard guard, how he had like one gold eye.
Yes.
Like clearly he's seen some shit and yet he's still in charge.
and there was a lot of subtlety with those lizard people with their eyes actually moving around too. As they moved, they'd look, and it was very planned out and done well.
It was very, very done well. I wanted more to that. If we could have, honestly, if we could have had subtitles for some of the lizard dialogue, I think I would have enjoyed this like a tremendous amount more, because I wanted to know who they were. Even if you just had like, parentheses cheers from the audience or something, but all you just kept hearing was like,
I agree with you. I wanted more
who's
of
the
the
queen
story.
or the empress? Who's like the empress in charge? They kept bowing to her. So there is such a societal archetype to this. There is a layer to like what's happening. Like you have an arena. Do you have combat often, or do you just raid villages every now and then and get 8 people
And just have them fight. I don't know.
And also, like, how do you know how to do surgery on the Yetis? Like
Putting the little thing in their head and knowing to zap it and it'll make them angry to fight.
And how do you know how much to zap? Did you build the gun just to zap, or is it a byproduct of like, we no longer need these on our spaceships anymore? Like, there's so much that was not there.
I feel like you left with more questions than answers, Drew.
I did.
But overall, what did you think of Primevals? Like, for me, I really did enjoy it. I
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I think I was actually surprised by how much I got into the characters and how much I enjoyed watching them and what they were getting into. I was not expecting our lady professor to die.
Well, and she died very like 80s, 90s style, where it's like, I gotta give the one last thing, and it's like, oh.
Please believe him.
From an arrow that just kind of, I don't know, it just felt like it was more flesh on the side. Like,
she had to turn around and look at the Yeti one last time, like, the gentle beast.
Well, she's standing there. I'm like, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
I know. It's like, we got to save him. And then shrink, arrow. And I'm like, lady, you did not need to stop.
Damn it.
Although I do love that it's still an homage and kind of a wink and a nod to King Kong, obviously.
Yes.
Because King Kong is not a violent beast. Like, King Kong is just a simple creature. Just like the Yeti. The Yeti, it didn't want to fight. I loved when it got zapped and it got angry and it smashed like the Neanderthal folks, and then when it came back, it kind of got its like bearings.
Yeah,
and like the look of horror on its face, looking at its blood,
with the blood on the hands. Like, what did I do?
Right, like what happened? Like you realize, like this is not what this thing does.
Mm-hmm. Well, even before that, when it's crawling to try to get out because it's like scared of like, I don't want to be here.
You felt for that creature. You felt for that lump of clay.
You did. And it did a great job doing so. But overall, out of 5, what would you give Primevals?
Out of 5, and I might have to go back and give it a second watch, but I think there's more questions that leave me giving it probably what I should be giving it. But I give it a solid 3.5.
I'm right there with you. Like I enjoyed my time. I didn't hate it. I mean, 90 minutes, it went by fairly quickly. And just looking at this animation that David Allen created of just was phenomenal. And, even 100%. Richard Band's score, like it was very epic. This might be, I don't want to say it might be one of his best ever, but it's really good. It's different than we've heard from him before.
Yes.
Which that's what I love. Like it's very just epic and very like kind of get you in that mood of boom, boom, boom. Like you got the theme and you're just like, we're on an adventure. Let's go. But yeah, 3.5 for me too. I plan on, I'll probably watch it, again soon. All right. Anything else you want to say about Primevals?
It makes me want to go back and watch more Full Moon features.
Absolutely.
With some claymation critters and, little monsters, like
a bunch of that old school.
I'm very tempted
stuff.
to put on dolls, or the best Puppet Master 3.
Oh, that is the best one. All right, before we move out, is there anything besides everyone should go rent Primevals and watch it, especially if you're a fan of stop motion animation or a fan of Full Moon? Either or, and if you're a fan of both, you definitely have to see it. Anything else that you think someone should watch at home? There was one that you watched yesterday you told me I need to see.
Oh, Get Duked, which is a Amazon original, I believe.
Okay.
From 2019. You have a bunch of kids in the Highlands going on like it's called like the Duke of Edinburgh quest, or like the Duke of Edinburgh challenge. It's an anarchic hip hop inspired comedy that follows 4 city boys on a wilderness trek as they try to escape a mysterious huntsman. It's very funny. It's so over the top. I will recommend this. Please watch it with subtitles. Unless you are native to the dialect, you're going to miss, I think, a lot of really funny lines. It's quite humorous. It's very kind of stupid in a way. My Best Friend's Exorcism from 2022, also an Amazon original. Very fun.
That's a fun movie.
Torn Hearts, featuring the mom, Katie Sagal, from
Married with Children,
and the voice of Leela on Futurama. Really kind of fun film. If anything, for the soundtrack. The soundtrack is great. I think it could have been a little bit longer. It's not like a huge investment of time. I think it's about 96, 98 minutes. But I think if they added just a little bit more, it's almost like if someone put an extra dose of paranoia into like Grey Gardens. It's an interesting little film. I don't know. I've been kind of on like an Amazon kick.
All right. Well, I'm just going to leave it with go check out Primevals because I really did enjoy it. And I'm with you. I'm going to go watch some Full Moon features. I have a Blu-ray for Netherworld sitting right here that I've never seen. So I'm going to go watch it and I'll report back to everybody. Before we go, thank you so much, Drew, for coming on to chat Primevals with me. And everyone should go check out the Real Feels podcast everywhere out there. Everywhere. All your podcatchers, all your social medias. And I know Drew will be back soon for more episodes because Drew's my buddy. We watch a lot of movies.
We also have Death Toilet.
We have some Death Toilet, Amityville Death Toilet. There's going to be a lot of toilets coming soon to Old Man Brad. Just be ready.
Amityville Death Toilet. We have The Majorettes with Dan. He's going to be super excited to watch that 80s slasher with us.
There are so many to-be films coming soon to Old Man Brad, so just be ready, people. And that's a great segue. Just make sure you subscribe to the show and you'll never miss any of those when they come out. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.